Hey there, welcome to LC Yoga. My name is Laura, and today we're going to cure a headache without the use of medication. We're going to do it naturally. You might need a couple of tools to help you out. The primary thing I use to help me cure my headaches naturally is a yoga wheel, but you may not have one of these. And if you don't, that's okay. A rolled up blanket or a bolster works just fine, and you may need two of them. So go ahead and grab those things, and I'll meet you back here. Welcome back. You might want to watch this first before you give it a try yourself. So I'll show you how I do this. And this is primarily for tension headaches, which for me, that's the vast majority of the type of headache that I get. There are other causes of headaches that this may not work for. But if you've got a tension headache, this is a really good solution. And it'll at least take the edge off, if not cure it completely. Now, it's important to know first what we're shooting for, what we're working on. And we're working on the trap muscles primarily. And the trap muscles go from your lower trap, starts around the middle of the back, goes up on either side of the spine, and then spreads out over your shoulders. It's these muscles that stick up over your shoulders. That's your upper trap. And then down here is your lower trap. And those are the things that get really bunged up when we are tense, when we slouch. Those two things, a lot of us do a lot, and so that's why we get headaches. Pain from those muscles, so that tension can pull on the neck muscles and cause a pain referral up into the head. And so it can go to the jaw and all the way up to the temples or even the forehead. So a lot of that you're feeling, when you feel a pain here and here and here, is actually coming from your shoulders and or your back, those trapezius muscles. So there's other muscles involved, but those are the ones we're really going to be focusing on today. And I find that when I release those muscles and kind of reverse that tension, that's when I get a lot of relief. So we'll start with the yoga wheel. If you don't have one, don't worry. In the second half of the video, I'm going to go through using bolsters, and you can substitute a blanket for that rolled up. So starting with the yoga wheel, I originally got this thing to help me back bend more deeply until I realized that our back bends are not just dictated by flexibility, but by our actual spines. And so I gave up trying to, really try to crunch my spine and back bend deeply. But I found that in practicing on the wheel, it would help my headaches. So now I just use it for that. And I'll actually use it as a preventative, and I'll get on this thing just about every day just to reverse the crunching from all the slouching I do during the day, working at a computer or on my phone. And it just reverses those muscles so that I can go into the evening without getting that tension up in my head. So I lean back on my yoga wheel right around the bottom of those trap muscles. And then I support my head by putting my fingertips behind my head because I don't want to strain my neck any more than it already is. I rest my head back on the wheel to get that support, and then just lift my hips up. And the really key part of this is stretching the arms overhead, because it's that is going to help release the muscles behind the shoulder blades and really help you get to that trap muscle. So you're doing a couple of things. You're releasing with the arms overhead, and then the pressure of the wheel on your lower trap is also kind of a massage. And then I'll just rock back, maybe going all the way, if my neck feels okay, to get lower down on the trap muscle, and then rock back and forth and just kind of hang out here for a minute or maybe two, and just let the weight of my arms do the stretching, and let the weight of my hips stretch out my chest muscles and my abs. And just breathe deep. And it can get quite intense, so you kind of have to adjust. based on how it feels for you. But for me, this feels awesome. And so I'll stay there for a minute or two and then lower my hips, place my fingertips behind my head again, lift my head up, put my hands on the ground, and then come up to a seated position. And then I'll just sit, legs crossed, just put my hands on my knees, eyes closed, and just kind of let that settle in. Just let the spine go back to neutral. Let the muscles go back to neutral. And the muscles will actually feel tighter after doing that because you're contracting them by going backwards. And so maybe a little neck stretching, gentle, side to side, down in front. But for the most part, I'll just stay still and I'll sit like that for about a minute. And then I'll do the whole thing again. I'll repeat it, and I usually do it at least twice. I find when I just do it once, it doesn't usually get the job done, but twice is usually good, and I'll go 3 times if it's really bad. But yeah, that's how I release my muscles, and I'll get relief from a headache. It works most of the time because I really try not to take medication if I can avoid it. And that is how I do that. So let's move on to how to do that with a blanket or a bolster. Now you can do the same thing. You can back bend over it just the same way, supporting the head and kind of reaching the arms overhead. In order to do that, you'll probably have to stack 2 bolsters on top of each other or roll 2 blankets up nice and tight. But I want to show you a different method that I use, and sometimes I'll do this before I even get out of bed. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I wake up, I'm a side sleeper, so I get a lot of crunching this way, and especially on my right side, that'll cause the same thing, and I'll wake up with a headache. So I'll do this with the pillows in the bed just to get that release, and it'll actually cure the headache before I ever get out of bed. So we're going to start with 1 bolster or blanket. So if you've got that, position it on the floor so that you can lie down on your stomach. And then put your elbows on the bolster or blanket. And you're kind of doing the same thing, right? You're stretching the shoulders. Now, if the neck is strained, you can kind of scoot back so the edges of the elbows are on the blanket or bolster, and just rest your forehead. And here you can just take this gentle stretch. Now for me, this doesn't feel like much, but this might be plenty for you. So you can just hang out just like this. Now, if that doesn't feel like much, that's when you get your second one in there and stack it on top. You may have to scoot up a little. Put your elbows on top of that. And then again, now just let the chest fall through the shoulders. And you're kind of doing the same thing, right? But you're just flipped over and face down instead of back bending. Face up. So you can rest the forehead and just hang out here, letting the chest drop through the shoulders. And that gives you a lot of the same action as back bending over the wheel. And just deep breaths here. And I'll do that again for about a minute. And then let everything get out of the way. And then just lie down, maybe stack the palms, rest the forehead. And just let the spine go back to neutral. And you can also come on up, sit cross-legged, just like before, and just kind of let things go back to neutral. Close the eyes, deep breaths. Maybe a little gentle neck movement. And there you have it. Now I usually take a little more time. I abbreviated that so the video is not too long. But like I said, I will do each one of those twice, depending on which method I'm using. And that kills my headaches. Now, I'm not a doctor, and so don't listen to me in terms of taking any kind of advice for your health or your treatment. If you've got any kind of concerns, talk to your doctor about this natural method. But for me, it just helps me avoid medication and works really well. So I hope that was helpful to you. Namaste.